Assalamualaikum, my name is Muhammad Faiz bin Rosnan and my matrix number is 2220573. I will explain about introduction for our presentations. This term might sound a bit complicated, but I will break them down in a simple way. In recent decades, the Asia Pacific region has experienced a dynamic interplay of economic growth, cultural diversity, and geopolitical complexity. However, alongside this development, the region has also been confronted with an increasingly pressing set of challenges that transcend traditional notions of security. Among these challenges, irregular migrations and people smuggling have emerged as critical issues that have the potential to disrupt the stability and well-being of the regions. Irregular migrations can be defined as a migratory movement that take place outside the regulatory framework of the origin, transit, and destinations country. While smuggling refer to situation whereby someone procures the illegal entry or stay of another person in a country for which he or she is neither a national nor a permanent resident for the purpose of obtaining directly or indirectly a financial or other material benefit. It sounds the same but different. For example, imagine you have a friend named Iqbal. Iqbal come from another country and want to live in our country, but he don't have the right document or permission to do so. In other words, he is not entering the country through the official channel like getting a visa or applying the residency. This make Iqbal an irregular migrant. Irregular migrants are people who enter or stay in a country without following the proper legal procedure. While the example for people smuggling, imagine there are persons named Emily who want to leave her country and come to our country for a better life. However, she afraid she might get cut and the border or face difficulty on her journey, so she paid a person to help her cross the border secretly and reach our country. This act of helping someone cross border illegally for money is called people smuggling. It's like hiring a guide to help you sneak into a place you are not allowed to go. So in summary, irregular migrants are individuals who enter or stay in a country without following the proper legal procedure, while people smuggling is the illegal act of helping someone cross border for money, often without permissions.
Assalamualaikum and a very good morning. I'm 220597 Muhammad Inish Mehmet Zamri. Today I will talk about 2.0 environmental impact. For environmental impact on Rohingya at Langkawi, the Malaysian archaeology of Langkawi is well known for its scenic beauty and tourism destination. It's likely that the Rohingya migrants present in Langkawi, if they choose to stay there, could have an effect on the ecosystem. But if the effective waste management and sustainable policies are not in place, the rise in pollution may result in more garbage being produced. So for the second point, for environmental impact, it's based on the irregular migration on Rohingya at Langkawi. Migration is not authorized or documented properly is referred to as a irregular migration. Many Rohingya have been forced to leave their homes as a result of violence, prejudice and persecution in Myanmar during the Rohingya crisis. For the last point on the environmental impact Rohingya at Langkawi is the people smuggling in Rohingya at Langkawi. People smuggling is the illicit transportation of migrants across border that is facilitated by individuals or organized group for financial gain. Human trafficking, on the other hand, entails using people for various forms of exploitation, frequently including forced labor or sexual exploitation. Criminal activity known as people smuggling preys on the weak point of migrants looking for a better life. On their trips, migrants are frequently forced to endure risky and abhorrent circumstances. So, for the next point, we go to the national potential on environmental impact in Rohingya and Langkawi. The first point is overcrowding and infrastructure. If a sizable influx of Rohingya refugees were to settle in Langkawi, it might cause overpopulation and put a strain on their area infrastructure, including housing, water supply, sanitary facilities, and water disposal. The local ecosystem and environmental could potentially suffer from this increasing demand. For the next point, we go to deforestation and habitat destruction. It could be necessary to clear land for homes and other infrastructure in order to make room for refugees. If the appropriate measures for sustainable development are not done, this could result in habitat degradation and deforestation. The last one is water scarcity. If the Rohingya situation is not adequately managed, it could put a burden on the local water supply. A rising population could exacerbate current water scarcity problems and possibly endanger nearby aquatic habitats due to increased demand for water. For the last huge topic for the environmental impact is the strategy to address environmental impact Rohingya and Langkawi. The first one is international cooperation. To address the underlying cause of irregular migration and other humanitarian relief to refugees, nations, NGOs and international organizations must work together. The second one is humanitarian assistance. To ensure that refugees have the access to the right infrastructure, healthcare, education and basic requirements is crucial for their welfare. The third one is the environmental sustainability. The environmental impact can be reduced by implementing sustainable practice and waste management in place with the high refugee population. And the last one is combating people smuggling. To safeguard vulnerable migrants, it is crucial to improve border security, law enforcement and international cooperation. In the conclusion for the 2.0 environmental impact, a complicated humanitarian problem, the Rohingya crisis has forced thousands of individuals from Myanmar into nearby nations like Malaysia. Malaysia is the biggest country, or maybe Malaysia is the part of the country that the most of the Rohingya transported to. Both of the host countries and the refugees must overcome enormous obstacles for hosting like nation like Malaysia. It is critical to strike a balance between their obligation to refugees and their own economic, social and environmental concerns. Okay, so next we go to the 3.0 humanitarian and health concerns based on the Rohingya and Langkawi. For the humanitarian and health concern, the first point is irregular migration and people smuggling. Unlawful border crossings are referred to as irregular migrations, and they frequently result from political unrest, persecution or economic hardship in the home nation of the migrants. The question of irregular migration is crucial in the case of Rohingya and Langkawi. A stateless ethnic minority from Myanmar, the Rohingya are mostly found in the Rakhine state. Numerous people have fled their homes in search of safety and neighbor nations like Malaysia as a result of systematic violence and persecution they have experienced. On the other words, organized criminal networks that make money by aiding unauthorized border crossings are involved in people smuggling. These traffickers frequently take advantage of the vulnerabilities of migrants by charging them extortionate price for exploitation and help cross border. So the next point, we go to the humanitarian concerns. The first point for humanitarian concern is the lack of basic needs. Many Rohingya refugees are complete travel to on the precarious, overcrowded boats where they frequently lack access to food, water and appropriate hygiene. When they arrive, they might not have the access to need like food, housing and medical treatment. The second one is the exploitation and abuse. Rohingya migrants are susceptible to abuse, both physical and sexual, at the hands of human traffickers and people smugglers. The third one is the health issue. Infections can spread among the migrants due to the cramped and filthy condition of the transit. Once they in Langkawi, poor living condition and restricted access to the treatment might make the issues worse. Okay, so next we go to the health concerns. The first point of the health concern is the disease spread. The infectious disease such as respiratory infection and gastrointestinal disorder can spread as a result of the circumstance in which migrants travel and live. The local populace may also be risked as a result of this. The second one is the healthcare access. Lack of access to the adequate healthcare service among the Rohingya migrants might result in the untreated illness that worse existing health problem. And the last one is the mental health. Traumatic incidents may have occurred to the migrants while they were travelling or in their native countries. Long-term of mental issues may result from a lack of psychological assistance. Okay, for the last point of the 3.0 humanitarian and health concern is the strategy. How can we help the Rohingya at Langkawi? The first one is the enhancing border controls. Countries in the region must improve border security measures to stop irregular migration and dismantle the network of people smugglers. The second one is the international cooperation. The international community must cooperate to solve the crisis underlying cause, advance human rights and support the nation taking in displaced people. And the third one is the healthcare services. For both their well-being and the prevention of possible public health problem, it is crucial to ensure that the migrants and refugees have the access to the healthcare services. In the conclusion for the humanitarian and health concern Rohingya at Langkawi, in light of irregular migration and people smuggling, the Rohingya situation in Langkawi is a complicated issue that calls for a all-encompassing and cooperative approach. The international community can endeavour to guarantee the Rohingya population rights, safety and dignity by addressing both the urgent humanitarian and health challenge and moving toward long-term solution. So that's all from me. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm 2220608, Eligibility Opportunity. Next, we're going to move to the 4.0 refugee crisis. Firstly, I'm going to go through the definition. What is a refugee crisis? So, refugee crisis is a situation where a large number of people, known as refugees, are forced to flee their homes due to conflict, persecutions, natural disasters, or other forms of violence. So the example of refugee crisis is the Xinjiang refugee crisis, which is a distressing reality as a direct consequence of the oppressive measures enacted by the Chinese government against its Uyghur Muslim minority population. So the consequences in refugee crisis topic is the Xinjiang refugee crisis poses significant threats to non-traditional security in the Asia-Pacific region. So the influx of Uyghur refugees can lead to social unrest, violent extremism, political instability, and conflicts within the region. Next, transnational organized crime driven by desperation and limited economic opportunities can also exacerbate these issues. Other than that, the crisis also strains diplomatic relations between China and neighboring countries, potentially causing territorial conflicts or geopolitical tensions. To address these threats, a comprehensive approach involving regional cooperation and humanitarian support. So lastly, this includes intelligence sharing, joint capacity building exercises, and disrupting recruitment strategies of extremist groups. A coordinated response is crucial to ensure long-term stability and security in the region. Next, we're going to go through 5.0 cybersecurity and information warfare. So, firstly, the definition is cybersecurity refers to the practice of protecting computer systems, networks, and digital information from potential threats, attacks, and unauthorized access. It involves a range of measures, technologies, and practices aimed at ensuring the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of digital data and resources. Next, information warfare, on the other hand, is the strategic use of information and communication technologies to gain a competitive advantage or achieve specific goals in various domains, including politics, military, economics, and social influence. Third, the rise of cybersecurity threats and information warfare has become a global concern, impacting non-traditional security in various regions, including the Asia-Pacific. And this issue, we will focus specifically on the cybersecurity and information warfare threats originating from Xinjiang, China, and their implication for non-traditional security in the Asia-Pacific region. In cybersecurity threats, Xinjiang has emerged as a major hub for cybersecurity threats. The region witnesses a significant digital footprint due to a large and diverse population. Other than that, the Chinese government's intensive surveillance measures, particularly against the Uyghur Muslim minority, have raised concerns about privacy and digital rights. Additionally, oppressive policies targeting this marginalized community, such as forced labor and mass detentions, have given rise to cyber espionage activities, leading to threats emanating from the region. While in information warfare tactics employed by the Chinese government in Xinjiang are growing concerns for non-traditional security in the Asia-Pacific. The dissemination of propaganda, disinformation, and censorship pose significant challenges to regional stability. Xinjiang's strategic location gives China an advantage in influencing the narrative around contentious issues, employing this region as a launching pad to disseminate their preferred narratives and manipulate public opinions both domestically and internationally. Lastly, implication for non-traditional security in the Asia-Pacific is the cyber threats from Xinjiang have significant implications for non-traditional security in the Asia-Pacific region. State-sponsored disinformation campaigns can lead to social and political polarization, undermine democratic institutions, and disrupt political stability. The civilian state in Xinjiang sets a dangerous precedent for other authoritarian regimes, potentially jeopardizing freedom of expression and civil liberties. Cyber threats can also result in economic vulnerabilities, disrupting critical infrastructure and compromising intellectual property. Addressing these threats requires international cooperation, robust cybersecurity frameworks, digital rights advocacy, and transparency and accountability.
My name is Muhammad Iqbal Safwan bin Azhari. My meeting number is 220592. In this slide, I want to talk about cross-border crime. Cross-border crime remains a persistent challenge in many regions around the world, which has been no exceptions. The illicit movement of goods, people, and money across international borders poses significant threats to national security, economic stability, and social well-being. This slide focuses on cross-border crime between the Philippines and Sabah, a region in Malaysia. Examining the nature of criminal activities, underlying factors, impact, and potential strategy for addressing these challenges. Nature of cross-border crime. Philippines and Sabah. The Philippines and Sabah share a maritime border in the Sulu Sea, making this area susceptible to various forms of cross-border crime. The criminal activity between these two regions including kidnapping and piracy. The maritime boundary between the Philippines and Sabah has witnesses incidents of maritime piracy and kidnapping for ransom. Criminal groups operating in the Sulu Selepsi often target commercial vessels and tourists, abducting individuals for financial gain. Second, human trafficking and migrant smuggling. The porous nature of the maritime border facilitates human trafficking and migrant smuggling. Individuals seeking better economic opportunities may be trafficked or smuggled across the border, often facing exploitation and abuse. And third, drug trafficking. The Philippines and Sabah border is also a route for drug trafficking, which organised crime groups exploiting the region's geography for smuggling narcotics such as methamphetamine, like shabu, ecstasy into both countries. And lastly is arms smuggling. Cross-border arms smuggling contributes to regional instability by supplying illicit weapons to criminal organizations and insurgent groups. And the underlying factors, several factors contribute to the prevalence of cross-border crime between the Philippines and Sabah. Geography and socio-economic disparity, social-economic between the Philippines and Sabah, along with the challenging geography of the region, create opportunities for criminal activity, including human trafficking and smuggling. Second, weak border control and law enforcement. Insufficient border control measures and law enforcement capabilities allow criminal groups to exploit gaps and operate with relative impunity. Thirdly, political and ethnic tension. Historical and ethnic tension in the region can exacerbate cross-border crime by providing a fertile ground for requirement and collaboration among criminal groups. Okay, impact of cross-border crime. The impact of cross-border crime between the Philippines and Sabah are multifaceted and far-reaching. First, security concern. Kidnapping, piracy and arms smuggling contribute to regional instability and can potentially escalate into larger security threats. Second, human rights violations. Human trafficking and migrant smuggling result in human rights abuse, which vulnerable individuals facing exploitation, violence and even death. Next, economic losses. Illicit trade including drug trafficking undermine legitimate economic activity and hampers the development of both the Philippines and Sabah. Lastly, social disruption. Cross-border crime disrupt communities and contributes to social instability, particularly in vulnerable border areas. Last slide is strategies for addressing cross-border crime. Between the Philippines and Sabah requires a comprehensive and collaborative approach. First, bilateral cooperation. The government of the Philippines and Malaysia should strengthen diplomatic ties and cooperate on intelligence sharing, joint operation and legal frameworks to enhance cross-border crime prevention and prosecution. Second, enhance border control. Investing in border infrastructure, surveillance, technology and personal training can help improve border control and deter criminal activity. Thirdly, capacity building. Both countries should focus on improving law enforcement capabilities, including training, equipment and resource to effectively combat cross-border crime. Lastly, community engagement. Engaging local communities in crime prevention effort can provide valuable intelligence and contribute to the criminal activities. That's all about the cross-border crime. Okay, next we discuss about human trafficking and forced labor. Human trafficking and forced labor are grave violation of human rights that persist globally, often fueled by irregular migration and people smuggling. This slide explain into the specific context of Sabah, a region in Malaysia, where this interconnected issue and prominent. We explore the dynamic of irregular migration, the roles of people smuggling and the resulting human trafficking and forced labor concern that affect both migrant and local communities. First, irregular migration in Sabah, drivers and implications. Irregular migration to Sabah is largely driven by a complex interplay of socio-economic, political and geographical factors. First, socio-economic push factors. Economic disparities and lack of opportunities in neighbouring countries, including the Philippines and Indonesia, motivate individuals to seek better prospects in Sabah. Poverty and limited access to education compel people to take disparate measures. Second, pull factors in Sabah. Sabah proximity to neighbouring countries and its relative prosperity make it an attractive destination for migrants. Informal labour market and industry provide opportunities for irregular migrants seeking employment. And the implication of irregular migration: strain on local resources and public services due to population influx, vulnerability to exploitation including human trafficking and forced labour, due lack of legal protection for irregular migrants. Next slide is people smuggling, facilitating irregular migration. People smuggling plays a critical role in facilitating irregular migration to Sabah, often at the expense of migrant safety and well-being. First, facilitators and networks. Criminal networks capitalize on migrants' desperation, providing transportation and assistance across borders. Smugglers often subject migrants to dangerous and inhuman conditions during transit. Second is exploitative practice. Smugglers charge exorbitant fees to their service. Pushing migrants into debt bondage, migrants may face overcrowded and unsafe transportation, risking their life during the journey. And next slide is human trafficking and forced labor nexus. The irregular migration and people smuggling dynamics in Sabah create fertile ground for human trafficking and forced labor to thrive. First, vulnerability of migrants. Irregular migrants are more susceptible to exploitation due to their lack of legal status and limited access to rights. Migrants are often coerced into exploitative labour situation upon arrival in Sabah. Second is labour exploitation. Migrants, including women and children, are forced into various sectors such as agriculture, construction and domestic work. Enduring harsh working conditions and meagre wages. The kafala system and lack of legal protection enable employees to control migrants' legal status and perpetuate abuse. And the last is sexual exploitation. Irregular migrants, particularly women and girls, are at risk of being trafficked into the sex trade. Lack of awareness and proper safeguard exacerbate their vulnerability. Okay, next slide is potential solution. Addressing human trafficking and forced labor requires a comprehensive approach that involves governments, civil society organisations, international bodies and local communities. Collaborative effort should focus on prevention, protection, prosecution and partnership. First, prevention. Comprehensive awareness campaign should be conducted in both the Philippines and Sabah to educate potential migrants about the risk of irregular migration and tactics used by traffickers. Economic development program and job opportunities in source countries should also be promoted to reduce the push factors driving irregular migration. Second, protection. Robust victim identification and protection mechanisms must be established. Safe shelter, legal assistance and social support should be provided to survivors of trafficking. Strengthening labour rights and improving working conditions for migrants can also serve as a deterrent to trafficking. And thirdly is prosecution. Legal frameworks need to be strengthened to effectively prosecute traffickers and smugglers. Law enforcement agencies should be trained to recognise and combat trafficking networks. Cross-border cooperation between countries is essential to disrupt trafficking operation. And last is partnership. International collaboration is crucial to address the transnational nature of human trafficking in the region, including the Philippines, Malaysia and other Southeast Asian nations should cooperate to share intelligence, conduct joint operation and extradite criminal.
In conclusions, irregular migration and people smuggling constitutes multifaceted, non-traditional security threat in the Asia-Pacific region. The scale and complexity of these challenges necessitates a holistic approach that involves cooperation among countries, international organizations, and stakeholders, fostering dialogue, sharing intelligence, enhancing border management, and implementing effective legal framework are crucial steps in combating this threat. It is imperative for nations in the region to prioritize human rights and humanitarian considerations while safeguarding their security interests by collectively addressing irregular migration and people smuggling. The Asia-Pacific region can work toward fostering stability, prosperity and harmony for both inhabitants and the global community at large. That's all for our presentation. Thank you.